Hello there, and welcome to A Normal Meets a Nerd with me, Dylan Evans, a very normal person who loves asking those abnormal questions you defo want to know the answer to.
And me, Darragh Ennis, the nerd who realizes they're not that normal, but I do my best to answer them anyway.
Yes, I've just realized that I'm wearing quite a topical t-shirt. It says Impossible Conversations,
Yeah,
which,
that's actually
judging
pretty
by the
cool.
list of questions I've got here,
Some of
this
them
is going to be one of
are
them.
absolutely impossible. Today I have on a Discworld t-shirt that I've had for too long and the pattern has started to fade, but I think it looks kind of cool, so I'm
It
keeping
does. The fade looks nice.
it.
It's
It's not
dapper.
on
Look at him.
purpose. Not on
Yeah.
purpose.
I thought you just always wore your little the chaser suit.
The amount of people who said that to me, I was doing gigs. I'm doing quiz gigs. Tickets on sale now.
Nice.
But I did one in Barnard Castle and one in Sheffield, and about quarter of the people at them asked why I wasn't wearing the chase outfit. They think I'm not allowed to wear that out. You know, that's a handmade velvet jacket. I take that off and give it back to wardrobe.
You think you're like a cartoon, like Homer Simpson, that you've
Yeah.
got to walk around wearing this
I've
specific
never
thing.
worn a bolo tie outside of work in my entire life.
What is it? What is like the
The little string tie, the bolo tie.
yeah? Is that like from the Wild West?
Yeah, it's
That's what
kind
it
of like a
reminds me
country and
of.
western style thing.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like it. Right, I reckon we should get into some mind-blowing questions or
Yes, let's
mind-blowing
do it.
answers. The answers are the mind-blowing bit, not so
Well,
much the
some of the
questions.
questions are pretty
Yeah,
mind-blowing.
some on this. Yeah, a bit of a mad one. Why do we laugh when we're being tickled?
All right, so this is from your brother, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, so Ryan sent this in. So this doesn't make a lot of sense if you think about it.
At all. I've never really thought about it either.
Yeah, and I never really thought about it either. I when I did think about it without looking it up, I thought, do you know what this is? It's an overstimulation thing. You know,
Mm.
sometimes you laugh when you shouldn't. You know that where
Oh yeah.
when somebody is you're in an uncomfortable situation, some people just giggle, that kind of thing. And
Hmm.
that's what I thought it was. And it kind of is a little bit. But the latest thing and a paper I read on this, they think it's self-defense. It's kind of weird, isn't it?
No, well, there's sometimes like my fiance, for example, she
Hmm.
hates being tickled to the point
Yeah,
it almost becomes aggressive.
yeah,
Like she'll swat and like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that, which makes sense.
yeah.
Like, oh, you're far too close to me, back off, kind of thing. I
Mm.
don't get where laughter comes into that.
So most of our ticklish regions are in
Speak for
places,
yourself, Dara.
yeah, places where you could be hurt. They're usually places that
Oh
are
yeah, I
vulnerable.
suppose
So
armpits,
armpits around your neck, around your
neck,
throat, the tops of your legs, that kind of stuff. They're all
soles
places
of your
where
feet. What about the soles of your feet?
soles of your feet, maybe less so, but they've got a lot of nerve endings in them, so they could
Okay.
hurt. It would really hurt you. Like if you stand on some Lego, it
Yeah, being
hurts a
there.
lot, or an upturned plug. But if you put your
Hmm.
arm on a piece of Lego, it doesn't hurt anywhere near as much.
Mm.
So it's still quite painful, even though it might not be critical, it's still quite painful. And there's this thought that the part of your brain that deals with that information, so all those nerve endings send information to your brain. That's what touch is. And
Hmm.
it's the same kind of place that makes our brain go, oh, I'm expecting something painful. So you tense up or get used to
Right.
something. And the idea is, and this is bonkers, but I think it's kind of true, is if you're in a situation where there's an aggressor and you're not going to escape and you go, oh, this is going to be painful, and they touch one of those places. If you laugh, it's kind of like a dog rolling on its back. You're
Oh
saying, oh,
my God.
I'm submitting, oh, look,
So it's being
look,
submissive.
yeah, being really
Oh
submissive.
wow.
And they think it goes way, way back. They think it goes like well back before, we were humans, that it's the same kind of thing, like a dog rolling on its showing its tummy. And it's the human equivalent of you're much bigger and stronger than me. I can't fight you off
Oh,
from
stop
my
it.
sense.
Stop
Yeah.
it.
Oh, stop. Oh, stop. Yeah. And I think that might genuinely be it. And when I read that, I went, actually, that out of everything I've ever read
Mm,
makes the most sense.
that does make sense. I would never have said that.
Yeah.
I
Now,
would never have said that.
this is one of these things that's very difficult to conclusively prove. It's
Mm,
probably impossible to conclusively prove, but as a theory goes, I think it's better than just saying it's overloaded nerve endings because that would make you laugh, it'd make you twitch away or something.
yeah,
And I
true.
think it kind of just makes sense. And it's
Haha,
the
leave me
same
alone.
when you think about it, like the other one that people always ask that's kind of related to this is what is an itch? Why do we
Yeah.
get itchy?
Yeah. What is an
And
itch?
an itch is the overloaded sensation. I think
Is
that's what
that
it is. It's where
I've
your
just got an itch
nerves,
now. I've
yeah.
just got an itch because I've
Oh, itches
mentioned
are
it like a
contagious
yawn. Yeah, I hate
and they're
that.
psychological. Yeah, that's the thing. So everybody's going to be scratching their head listening to this. Instead of scratching their head in wonderment, they're scratching their head because it's itchy. Um, so I think that's, you get some sort of sensation and your brain interprets that as, oh, there's something on me. There's something crawling on me and I don't like it and I need to remove it. So like a flea or an insect or something.
Mm.
And scratching it means that your brain goes, okay, you've rubbed that part, the insect's probably gone, so it's gone away.
So, but just randomly, or would something have touched
It
you?
could be, we're covered in tiny little hairs. So,
Well, okay.
if you get goosebumps, you ever look at your arm when you get goosebumps or
It
something?
looks weird.
Yeah,
I
it
don't
looks
like it.
weird, and but you see those tiny little hairs that you can't normally see standing up.
Mm.
If something ruffles them around, they've got a nerve ending at the base of them, and that fires. So it goes, oh, this is moving. So it could be, a bit of wind, the way your clothes are sitting. It could genuinely be, a little bug that landed on your arm and you
Mm.
didn't realize. Yeah, so it's probably that, but the itching sensation is, your brain registering that you've probably removed the thing that was there.
Yeah, and now I'm really itchy, so thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
is it like a yawn? Is it that kind of thing?
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
mentioned it, so now it's in my head and it's
Well, your brain starts picking up ones that would have been below the threshold. It starts going, okay, hold on, itch, what's itch? And we're able to process that information. And some part of your brain must register it and goes, okay, let's check
do
all the
it, do
inputs
it.
and have a look and see what's going on. But yeah, it's so yeah, our brain is very, very strange in a lot of ways. And a lot of stuff like this goes back to when we were, hairy animals living in trees, basically.
Mm,
And we would
that's
have had a
just
lot
stuff.
lot
Yeah.
of fleas and we would have rolled on our back and laughed to show someone we weren't a threat.
I think I prefer us now. I prefer us now.
It's much better eating, a takeaway on a comfy couch than leaves in a tree in the rain.
I agree.
Yeah,
I
there's no
agree.
competition.
Yeah. Into a bit of a mad one now. I want to swear for this, but I'm not going to. We'll keep it
Yes.
family friendly. What the? What is a black hole, Dara?
Okay. So a black hole is an object that is so heavy and so dense that nothing, including light, can escape its gravity. So I'm going to go into like some classic metaphors here because this is
Go
all I
on.
can already feel people turning off the podcast
Yeah,
and this is too much.
what are you
So,
talking about?
the modern interpretation of physics largely, and I'm going to do a bit hand wavy here so we don't get too complicated, but
Simplify it for me, mate.
space and time get bent by heavy objects. So if you think of stars and planets, really, really big, heavy objects, they bend space around them, and that's what gravity is.
Hmm.
So if you picture space as being, say, like a trampoline, I have one in my back garden, most people do. If you put a bowling ball in the middle of a trampoline,
Goes
it will
down.
pull down.
Yeah,
And if you
yeah.
put if you roll some ping pong balls across it, they won't go straight across anymore. They'll go around in a circle
Hmm.
around it. And that's what effectively, really oversimplified, but effectively that's what happens in space.
Hmm.
So the planets get caught in the gravitational pull and they get caught into an orbit, and that's what they do. And it's the same with the moon around the earth and all that kind of stuff.
I can make sense of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really, really big, heavy, heavy things bend space, and that causes gravity. Not exactly. I just want to. So for any scientists listening, I'm sorry if you're crying. I'm trying to make this non-terrifying for the
This
non-scientists.
is for the normals.
Yeah,
That was an
for the
answer for the
normals, the nerds.
normals there. Yeah.
So when something like a neutron star, say, so a neutron star is a very, very dense star. If it becomes dense enough, not only do the planets and stuff start getting sucked toward it, eventually light can't escape it. So the gravity is so much that light gets sucked into it and can't escape.
That's the bit that. What do you mean?
So
What do you mean? It doesn't.
okay,
How can it not escape?
all right, all right.
So it just stops.
Oh God, no, I'll step back. I'll step back. Okay, so if you want to leave Earth's gravity, you need to go on a rocket because the escape velocity, which is what it's called, the speed you need to get into space is a certain number. If you want to do that from the moon, because the gravity's lower, it's much lower. You can jump higher on the moon. You
Hmm.
don't get pulled down as quickly. So the speed that you need to escape the moon is much, much lower. And if you want to do it on a smaller moon, like one of the moons of Mars, it's smaller again. You could probably, do it like with human powered stuff off one of those moons.
Hmm.
If you want to do it on Jupiter, which is massive, you need to go much, much faster because the gravity is much heavier.
Right.
If you want to do it from the sun, if you didn't burn up, it would be massively more. The speed you would need to get would be into like hundreds of thousands of miles an hour.
Okay.
Okay. If eventually you will get to a point where the speed you need to travel to escape the gravity is faster than the speed of light. So if something is big enough, if something is massive enough, if it has enough mass, the gravity is so much that if you were a human, the only way to escape it will be to travel faster than the speed of light, which is, as we understand physics at the moment, impossible. But it means that light itself can't escape the
Right.
black hole. And that's why
Okay.
it sucks everything in. Now, the really interesting thing with black holes is we don't really know what happens inside them. We're not really
Is
sure.
I was my next question was going to be, is it a hole? I know that's maybe
No,
the
not
most
really.
stupid
It's an
question.
object, but as far as we understand it, it's a thing with
So it's
such
not a
massive
hole,
gravity.
but it just
No, a
sucks
hole to
stuff in.
where?
This is what I mean, and not
Yeah.
none of it makes
So
sense.
so we don't really fully understand what happens because it's very hard because there's no data coming out. Like you occasionally get like gravitational waves and stuff coming out of the but effectively it's very hard to know what's going on in there. And currently they think everything gets stripped down into protons and electrons and just becomes part of the black hole, so it keeps sucking things into itself.
Hmm.
But really, the amount of knowledge that we have about anything past what's called the event horizon, which is the point where you can't light can't escape, is quite low at the moment. And I am not an astrophysicist, so this is me really stretching. But like some of them are so huge. Like there's one that's called, hang on, I'm gonna look up the name because it's a weird TON 618, because
Catchy name.
yeah, catchy. Ton
Catchy name.
618 is the biggest one at the moment, I think, that they know about. And it's 66 billion times the mass of the sun.
66 billion.
Yeah, times the mass of the sun. Now, the sun takes up well over 99% of the mass of our solar system. And it's 66 billion times more massive than that.
That's just
It's
stupid.
insane. Yeah.
That doesn't
So
make
the
sense.
supermassive black holes are huge. And they're these huge, massive things that no light can escape from. There's, and we really genuinely are not sure what happens to what goes through.
They don't make sense, really, dude. Like when they first got the readings, oh, what if we spot it in space? They must have been like, there must be an error here. This,
Yeah,
this,
they did. And
this
they thought,
can't be right.
well, they didn't think anything could be that dense for a long time. So there's a
Yeah.
really brilliant scientist. I think she's from Northern Ireland, actually, Jocelyn Bell Burnell, and she studied stars and pulsars and black holes. And it was her work along with Stephen Hawking and other people like that. And they were able to figure out that, you could get mass that was that concentrated because effectively when you look at an atom, when you think of a picture of an atom that you learned in school with like the little dot in the middle and the clouds
The
around it and
little,
all that,
yeah.
there's an awful lot of empty space within atoms,
Mm.
so if you condense that right down so all those particles are right beside each other and put all the atoms right down so they're right beside each other, you can make something that's so dense. So like a neutron star, which is nowhere near as concentrated as massive as a black hole, like a spoonful of that weighs more than the Earth. It's bonkers how heavy this stuff is.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it does. So effectively, the take home message. So we're not terrifying people, and they've lost their minds. Is
We
that
might
it's
be.
so heavy and so dense that even light can't escape its gravity, and that's what a black hole is.
That is mind-boggling stuff. On to another mind-boggling question. This one kind of splits the internet, and I don't
Yes,
get why. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
this isn't hard. I don't understand why people are so upset about this. Of course, it's a sandwich.
Yes. Oh,
It's
I don't get how it isn't. It really, really annoys when people are like, no, it's not a hot dog. No, no, it's 100%. And the argument they have is that because it's connected, so it's not a complete like bread, meat, bread. It's connected. A Subway sandwich
but
is
if
connected.
Yeah, but if you go to like a deli and you get like a filled baguette, it's going to be connected on the
It's
other
going to be
side.
connected, but I don't get what the argument is that it's not a sandwich.
Yeah,
It doesn't make any sense.
and if you cut through the hot dog bun, which I regularly do because I'm a very clumsy man, it's still a hot dog.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
never
I,
understood this.
I,
Burgers are sandwiches, hot dogs are sandwiches. Yeah,
True.
that's
True.
just
It's not
it.
even a
And
debate. Feel free to argue in the
yeah,
comments if you're
oh
watching
yeah,
this video.
I want to hear people come up with cromulent arguments as to why it is. Like I used to sandwich everything. I don't know about you, but when I was a student, especially, like I'd make a lasagna sandwich. I would to bang out to like,
Lasagna sandwich is crazy. But to be
yeah,
fair, I used to have a pot noodle butty. Have you ever
yeah.
had a pot noodle butty? Pot noodle butty, because a pie butty is
Shepherd's pie
phenomenal.
sandwich,
Yeah.
top notch.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, a slice of buttered white bread tends to go with most meals, and you will
absolutely.
always you sandwichify that. Is that a
Yeah,
verb?
and you know, if you buy cheap uh, bread and you're a student, you could probably double your calorie intake for an extra 50p. There you go.
There you go. There's our answer. Sandwich everything.
Oh,
Everything can be a sandwich.
you can sandwich anything.
Yeah, well said.
A
Well said.
sandwich is possible, though I wouldn't
Oh,
recommend
oh, could break the world.
it.
That's
A
good. That's good. I
world
like that.
sandwich. Ooh, do we have any listeners in like New Zealand? And we could try and find
Oh
where the
my
closest
God.
place, and we could put like a piece of bread on the ground at the same time, and we could have an earth sandwich.
Surely someone's done that. If they haven't, and we've just thought of that,
Have
has
we
anyone
thought of
sandwiched?
something?
Yeah,
Probably not.
that'd be good press. That we sandwiched the world. Nice, nice. Oh, bit of a mad one here. Can you do scientific testing on yourself? It's a good one.
Yeah, it is. So
Never thought
like,
about that.
okay, so I worked in labs for a long time and we
Hmm.
worked on fruit flies for the very good reason that we were removing brains from individuals, and doing that on humans is generally considered poor form. You know,
Frowned upon, you could
it's not
say.
okay. You know, there's a very famous, gothic horror novel by Mary Shelley about this. You don't put stitch up people and cut them up and all that kind of stuff where possible.
Yeah.
So there's very, very strict ethical guidelines with research. And you
Mm,
can do like lower organisms, people use yeast and cell lines, fruit flies, things like that. And the restrictions are obviously lower for very good reasons. Once you get up to, I know we say guinea pig, but they don't really use guinea pigs anymore. It's usually mice and rats.
mm.
Then it becomes ethically way more challenging because, they've got emotions and stuff. And you have to be more careful. You have to do it at a smaller scale. And there's so many rules about how many animals you can use and for what form. And great reasons. There's
Yeah.
real reasons for that. We don't want to mess with that. But with humans and going into drug trials, that becomes a much more difficult prospect. So you have to
Mm,
have done loads of trials on animal models or cell models beforehand, and then you can sign people up and they have to sign all these sort of contracts, and you have to do lots and lots of very careful work, and
mm.
people have to be very well aware, and you have to get volunteers. But there's a loophole, and it's if it's on yourself. That's why this question's a good question. You can test on yourself all you want. That's fine. You can just do that. Now,
Well, yeah, who'd stop you?
yeah, exactly. You can just do stuff. It's your own decision. As long as what you're testing yourself with is legal, go nuts.
True. Go
You know.
nuts.
So, and that's genuinely true. Now, obviously, this is very limited. You can't do double blind testing on yourself, so you'd always
Mm.
know you were getting the real thing or a placebo. You can't do this at scale. You can't test yourself like as 100 different individuals or 1,000 or whatever you need. But there have been cases where a person has won a Nobel Prize for testing on himself, which is kind of
I
cool.
was I was going to ask, has anyone ever done this? They've won a Nobel
Nobel
Prize.
Prize, yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's an Australian guy. His name is Barry Marshall,
Good
and he
name.
won the Nobel Prize for medicine in 2005. So one question that people still don't get right is what causes ulcers, stomach ulcers.
Okay, yeah. I thought the mouth. I was going to say get some Bonjela on the
So
go.
people who have stomach ulcers, one of the things that everybody says is stress. Stress causes stomach ulcers. It's executives get it, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Stress is not good for you in general, and you can get stomach ulcers as well. But what really causes it is a bacteria.
Okay.
So it's a bacterial infection in your stomach lining. It's called Helicobacter pylori, which is a fancy way of saying a spiral-shaped bacterium that lives near your pyloric part of your stomach.
Hmm.
And they cause it and they cause the infection. So this guy, Barry Marshall, and his partners were really sure, like they said, there's no way it can just be stress. It has to be bacteria as well. And he dosed himself with the bacteria, gave himself stomach ulcers, and
Oh
then
my
took
God.
really powerful antibiotics and they went away.
Well, that's it's that it is really smart, but it also could be the most stupid thing going.
Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
give.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He
what are you
was,
doing this afternoon? Oh, I'm just giving myself stomach ulcers.
yeah, he was so confident that it would work, and it did. And one thing is, it like this changed medical sort of opinion of how to deal with stomach ulcers. So now, like when we were kids, stomach ulcers were a long-lasting problem, and a lot of people had to get surgery and all that kind of stuff. Now, no, you never hear about that. No one has an ulcer anymore. Doesn't
No, I
happen.
was going to
Yeah,
say, and
you
that's
just
because
you
of
just get
him,
antibiotics.
really.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. So
Fair play.
he got this definitively down. So there's there's this weird thing that people have about science is, oh, they're always changing what they're saying. So of course we're changing
Mm.
what we're saying. We get new information and we assess it. And if it means that something else isn't true, then we don't think it's true anymore. You don't believe stuff in science. It's proven. That's how it
You want,
works.
so as a scientist, would you say you want to be wrong to an
Oh yeah, yeah.
extent?
There is nothing better than realizing we've been wrong on a fundamental level if it means that we can understand something better. That's what you
Okay.
do. You want to get new information. So either to be wrong or to be pushed in another direction.
Mm.
That's the fun bit, because I tell you, we don't do it for the money. Um, it's not very well paid. It's that discovery and going, oh, actually, do you know what? That isn't actually quite
Mm.
the case, the thing we were thinking. And this is why scientists kind of get rings run around them in debates, because people who are really adamant say, yeah, but you keep saying it might be, or it should be, or it could be. And I'm always like, with the black hole chat earlier, I was always like,
Yeah.
you always qualify it because you're never quite sure. But this guy felt sure enough that he was willing to give
Mm.
himself a stomach ulcer just to prove himself right.
Well,
And he
he
was
done
right. Barry
good.
Marshall, what a man.
Shout out to him if he's listening,
Yeah.
if he's
So
alive.
if you want to be a guinea pig, you can do it to yourself, but it's an N of one, sample size of one, and that's not very good for statistics.
So,
So yeah, it's only an indicator.
but you can do it.
It
Kill your
can be done.
moods.
It
It
can.
can be done. Lovely. Oh, one that always stresses me out actually. What are those little floating things in your eye? Not
Okay.
all the time. Like they pop in every now and then.
Yeah.
Freaks me out a little bit. I think I'm
And you
going
can see them
blind.
if you look at a white thing, especially, you see them sort
Yeah,
of slowly drifting,
and they like
little
move. They like
clumps.
clunk clunk clunk
Yeah.
as you're moving. What is that? What am I looking at?
So effectively what you're looking at is a little lump of protein.
What?
Um,
What?
so how your eyes work. This is we're gonna have to have a quick rewind how your eyes actually work, because a lot of people don't realize how. So the lens at the front focuses the light, kind of like, the lenses on glasses do, same kind of concept. It
Hmm.
focuses the light through your pupil and into your eye, and then it goes into the back of your eye, hits your retina, and your retina has all the photosensitive cells, rods and cones, and that sends a message back to your brain. That's how you see stuff. But your eye isn't empty. It's got this kind of jelly stuff in it, which is called the
No.
vitreous humor.
I
So
go.
yes,
I
basically. So
I
it's
jelly.
so
Okay.
if you've ever been in biology class, I did it when I was in like the equivalent of A levels in Ireland. We dissected an eye, and it's this really thick, sort of gloopy jelly, and that's what fills up your eye. And as you get older, sometimes some of the proteins in it clump together into like little lumps, and they float across your eye. And because the light from your lens hits them before it hits your retina, it casts kind of like a little shadow. That's all it is. So it's just a shadow of a natural thing that happens in your eye as you get older, little tiny little lumps. And because they're literally floating around in your eye, and if you move your eye, they'll move in
This
that
is
direction.
horrible.
Yeah.
This is horrible. I didn't want that.
So
I thought it was just going to be like, oh, the lights hit you in a weird
yeah,
way. I
no, no,
didn't
there's
think it'd
just
be goo.
there's little bits floating around
Clumps
in your
of
eye
goo.
thing.
So I'm
Yeah.
going to be terrified when I next see one.
There's nothing
It's
wrong
a
with them.
clump
Like,
of
yeah,
goo.
they break down on their own. They're not dangerous in any way. There's nothing to be worried about. They're just, a little bit of dirt, essentially, a little clump of something floating around in your eye jelly. And that's it.
That's weird. That's worse than no. That's awful. That's make something up. Say it's a little alien. Something fun.
You would
I
rather
like
have an alien inside your eye than a little clump of
that.
protein. Because that would terrify me.
Yeah. That's disgusting. I hate that answer.
You're
I
welcome.
don't
I
think
hope it
I've
keeps you
never heard
awake at
that.
night.
Yeah, it probably will. It probably will. In case I see one. Wow, that's horrible, though.
Yeah, no, it's all right. Like they do happen. You tend to get them more as you get older.
All
And
right.
like your eye works remarkably well. I know we tend to get glasses and stuff, but your eye works
Mm.
remarkably well throughout your life. But yeah, things just start to clump together and stick together as you get older.
The
It's
eyes
the cause.
confuse me. Eyes
Yeah,
confuse me because don't we see stuff upside down and then it has to
yes,
flip?
yeah.
That's stupid.
But
Why?
the mad thing about that is the really mad thing about that is if you get a special set of glasses that flip the image the other way, after a day or two, your brain will automatically flip it back. And if you keep wearing them,
You
and
see
then when
upside.
and then when you take them off, it takes a little while for your brain to adjust, a few seconds or a few minutes, and you'll see things upside down with no glasses.
That's horrible.
Yeah,
That is.
it
We
is.
should do that. We should do that as an
Yeah. Now,
experiment.
now you do need to do it for like a couple of days for it to really take effect. But yeah, so effectively your
That would
brain,
be horrifying. Say it stuck. Could it stick?
I don't know. I don't remember seeing anything about
After
sticking
30 seconds had passed and you're still sitting upside
upside
down,
down.
I'd
Yeah.
lose my marbles. I'd be like, what have I done?
Yeah,
What
it'd be
have
very
I
hard to
done?
adjust to, wouldn't it?
You've got handstands for the rest of your life just
Yeah.
for things to make sense.
But yeah, no, your brain is weird.
Mm. To that. Oh, okay. Mine have been playing up recently, actually. I should sneeze into this question.
Yes.
What's the point of allergies? What's going on? I hate this.
Yeah. Allergies are rotten, aren't they?
Yeah, so I'm bad. I'm really bad with hay fever. I've always been
Yeah.
bad with hay fever. I got sent home from school once. Hay fever was that bad. How bad's
Oh,
that? My eyes
yeah.
like swelled up. I look like a frog, little frog boy.
Yeah. That's not
What's
great.
that? But what's that about? Why?
So this is a misfiring of your immune system, effectively. So
Okay.
most of the time, you have things that come into your body all the time. There's nothing you can do. You can't escape it. There's fungal spores and pollen and bacteria and viruses
Mm,
constantly everywhere you go. And when you're working in a science lab or a medical lab, trying to work under sterile conditions is actually really hard. So you have to like, you have to have specially filtered air, and usually you have like a Bunsen burner to blow, to have hot rising air around you going. It's really difficult. Bacteria and stuff are everywhere.
mm,
So your body has defenses to stop this becoming a huge problem. The only issue is that sometimes it will identify something that isn't a problem as a problem. And so it misrecognizes. So your immune system that would normally kick in when it finds a bacterium or a virus or a fungal spore or something identifies, say, pollen. That's the one everybody realizes.
mm,
And it goes, okay, this is a foreign agent. We don't like this. And it goes to start to attack it. And one of the best ways to get rid of anything out of your body, because nearly everything comes in through either your eyes, your nose, or your mouth,
mm.
is to make those things stream, especially your nose and your eyes,
So that's why you get a runny nose. Is that your body saying,
and
get
watery
out, get
eyes.
out, get
Yeah.
out?
And
Oh.
it also, it sends loads of blood to the area so there's lots of white blood cells that can fight off any disease, causes your sinuses to swell up, your eyes to swell up, everything,
Oh
all
my
that
God.
swelling. All that swelling is your body doing its very best to defend you against what it thinks is a pathogen that could kill you or hurt you.
So it's your body being dramatic. Your
Yeah,
body's being over dramatic.
it's effectively like, someone is in the house alone and there's a noise downstairs and they turn the alarm on and call the police and like
Yeah.
lock all the doors and windows and barricade their door, which is brilliant if there is a murderer there. But if it's just the cat knocking something over, which it is in this case, that's effectively it. And one of the main proteins that's involved with that is one that's everybody knows the name of, but they don't realize it's part of their immune system. It's called histamine. And you
Antihistamines a
take
thing, isn't it?
antihistamine to negate the
Ah,
effect of histamine, and that's why antihistamines are called antihistamines because
oh,
it's
there we
part of
go.
your innate immune system. So there's two different parts of your immune system that kind of work hand in hand, and the one that kicks off for allergies and stuff is your innate. It's called. It's the one that just works and just finds something that looks foreign. The other one, your adaptive, is the one that where you can't catch some diseases twice
Mm,
because it
mm,
recognizes and registers known pathogens and then fights them off.
right.
But that's not part of your allergy system. Your allergy system is usually the one that kicks in, the first line of defense that kicks in like crazy. It's just overactive. And for some reason, it's identified peanuts or whatever it is as being the worst.
That was good. My next question was going to be like, because the pollen's obviously one thing,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, you get a bit sneezy. What's going on with the nut allergies? Can that like
They're
kill
big,
people?
they can kill people. Yeah. They can be
That's
very, very
mad.
serious. So if it ramps up too high, you go into what's called anaphylactic shock. So that's where your system goes so crazy that your throat swells up, you can't breathe,
Mm.
and it can affect your heart rate and lots of other stuff. And it just goes into a mad spiral and it can't escape it, and it can actually kill you. So
That terrifies me. That
totally
it's.
terrifying. Yeah.
I also think like, say I'm really allergic to something, I just don't know yet.
Well,
Something I've just not tried.
you can't be allergic to something you've never been around. It's
Oh,
really rare. It's really, really rare. Most of the
so
time.
that's all from like even being a child and having a bad
Yeah.
experience with like a
Yeah. So
peanut.
most of the time, if you're going to be allergic to something, you have to have come across it at least once. Now, it could be with pollen, that happens all the time. There's
Mm.
nothing you can do, but it's really, really rare to have an allergic reaction, a complete full allergic reaction to something you've never come. It can happen, but for most people, they have experienced it, the body doesn't like it, and then when they go again, it goes nuts. But some people develop allergies over time.
Oh wow.
So I've
Are you
known,
allergic to anything?
no, not that
No.
I know of. So,
See, not that you know of. That's
yeah.
it.
So I used to work with someone who was nicknamed the Crazy Bee Lady, in Canada, and she was mad about bees, and we did some bee research. But she became allergic to the stings, and she
Aren't
still
we all a bit though?
no, she became like properly have to go to
Oh,
hospital
sheets.
allergic.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
So some people do, and like over time, you can become your allergies can change over time, and you can get rid of allergies. You can train them away. So,
How? What do you mean?
so she did bee venom therapy where she got tiny doses of bee venom injected into her over a long period, so that her allergy went down. A friend of mine, Peter, really good friend of mine, was allergic to peanuts, and he did microdosing of peanuts over, I think, over a very long time, maybe 2 years.
Microdosing.
Yeah. And he's now got to the point where he can go to a restaurant and like he can't eat peanut butter or anything, but he can go to a
Mm.
restaurant and not have to worry if there's peanuts in the kitchen,
Oh,
which is
that's
like that's a big thing.
so you're almost weaning yourself back onto the
Yeah.
thing.
You're
Oh
gradually
wow,
becoming
I didn't know
accustomed to
that.
it and doing it, but like you have to do that very carefully under medical
Mm.
supervision. But like his friends, because I love Irish people, they're horrible like friends and stuff. When they were on holidays, if he like fell asleep or anything, they'd write on his skin with a peanut. And because he was so allergic, he'd react. It wouldn't cause him any danger, but he'd end like this. So they were able to write, swear words on his back and
Or
stuff.
draw certain
Yeah,
body
yeah, yeah.
parts.
Great
Don't you?
lads, great lads.
Always a laugh. Always a laugh.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting about allergies. Didn't know most of that.
Yeah, yeah, they're fun.
Nice. Hmm. Well, I thought it was still fun.
But they're fun for someone like me who doesn't have any.
Okay, so that was a impossible conversation to say the least. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, thanks very much for listening. And remember, we need the questions because we can't provide answers if there are no questions in life.
True. Yes.
See you next time, guys.
Bye.